the Small Business Council. I know the Tax Institute represents the full state, so long as it's geographically, it geographically represents the entire state. A number of times, I'm from North Louisiana, so I'm always real clear on this. A number of times, our small businesses feel left out of a lot of associations. So I just preference that I don't know the makeup of that body.
I think, and perhaps it's something you and I could talk about between here and the floor, and I've got the makeup of that group, which I think you'll find more advantageous to kind of the purpose of the study and the goal of the study.
Right.
But I'm certainly willing to discuss that with you maybe before it goes
Whatever
to
the
the
will
floor.
of the committee is, but I just have to preference that a lot of our associations, I know the Tax Institute kind of does statewide. As long as it's a statewide makeup, I'm fine with that. Rural, and I said, Senator Reese, because rural small businesses are uniquely situated, so I always want them to have representation.
Yeah, I think this will give a little bit better. Our Tax
you
Institute really
believe
has a
that,
lot of Baton Rouge and New Orleans centric representation on it only.
Okay.
And so I think this one might end up getting more statewide.
So if you
exposure.
believe that, I'm okay with doing the amendment now.
Okay.
You've always been very forthcoming.
Okay. The board is clear. I have,
Can y'all do an amendment?
okay. Ms. Lamb, you're on.
Can do it.
Senator Smith?
Okay. Are y'all ready? The amendment would be in concept, but it would be on page 1, line 2, change Louisiana Tax Institute to Louisiana Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. And we'd also do the same on page 2, line 7, and page 2, line 13. Change the Louisiana Tax Institute to Louisiana Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council.
You're okay with that?
Yes, yes. I trust your opinion that it's going to be more representative of the rural businesses and the state as collectively as a whole.
Do we have an amendment number?
No, sir.
No.
It's a concept.
Concept amendment. Can you offer that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On a motion by Senator Reese to accept the amendment in concept, is there any objection to that? Hearing none, that amendment is adopted. I have one card from Kevin Richard with the Louisiana Department of Revenue, and he's waiving. Will provide information if requested, but
I move to report SR 168 favorably as amended.
on a motion by Senator Reese to report SR 168 favorably or as amended, is there any objection to that motion? Hearing none, Senate Resolution 168 will be reported with amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
There you go. So we usually take ladies first. Is Ms. Phelps here? Representative Phelps, please take the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're hoping to do this very quickly.
Very quickly, yes, sir.
House Bill 246.
Yes,
You're
sir.
up.
Thank you, committee, as well. House Bill 246 only it allows for a first-time, I'll refer to as offender, but a first-time a citizen who has had a lapse in insurance, that they will be afforded this first time to forego penalties and fees of $125 from the state. It doesn't change anything in present law, because if they're second-time offense, they will be at that second time. That's present law. I'll be happy to answer any questions or ask for your favorable passage.
Okay. And if I understand this right, this is for first offense only
First time, yes, sir.
in 5 days.
If they pay within 5 days, we're giving them that grace period.
Okay. All right.
No, this is the one we just changed to
See, I see the board is clear.
Tax Institute.
Do we have any amendments on this one? No. In support, would like to speak, is it Joshua Whittington? Is that? Okay. And Peter Robbins Brown. And Ms. Temple from OMV is present, will provide information if requested. On a motion by Senator Luna that we report House Bill 246 favorably, Is there any objection? Hearing none, 246 is reported favorably.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Sure.
Thank you.
This committee's been very kind to you.
Yes, sir, I appreciate it.
We have one little bill left. Representative McCormick, House Bill 37. On your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. HB 37 is the bill number. I'll be brief since constitutional carry legislation is no stranger to anyone in this committee. Louisiana is already an open carry state, which allows law-abiding citizens to carry their firearm openly without mandatory training. Allowing those same law-abiding men and women to wear a jacket in colder weather or place their firearm in a purse when wearing a dress also will not cause a problem. This bill will not allow anyone to carry a concealed weapon unless they are already able to legally open carry. Business owners and private property owners will retain the right to ban handguns from their property. This has nothing to do with the purchase or transfer of firearms. This will not change the background checks required to purchase a gun, nor will it change the strong laws Louisiana has in place for anyone who misuses a firearm. Constitutional carry is common sense carry. It removes the government tax and red tape that stands between law-abiding citizens and the Second Amendment. The legislature passed constitutional carry last year, and I believe we should pass it again to send a clear message to the people of Louisiana that we aren't willing to compromise when it comes to their Second Amendment.
All right. Question from Senator Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rep, I'm a little concerned. So are we going to still have a permit process for those who want to
Yes, sir.
go through the permit? Because one of my big concerns always is reciprocity. One of the things we enjoy with our permit process is other states recognizing our permit holders, that they've gone through training and that they are certified and that they've done the proper checks, and so that our citizens can carry in other states as if they had a license in that state. You know, we have wide reciprocity right now, and if we get rid of our permit process, you're not going to have that reciprocity.
And yes, sir, this doesn't affect the permit process. It keeps it in place.
So it's going to be a two-track system, if you will. Anybody wants to carry in the state who meets your requirements, and then those who choose to get the permit go through the
That's
class
correct.
and the training.
And also, this bill, basically, if you can open carry has different regulations than permit carry.
Right.
So in this, if you can, this is the same as open carry, but you can still conceal carry. So there'll be restrictions on carrying these firearms that aren't owners that have the permit. They'll have more freedoms, the people with the permit.
Okay. Now, one of the benefits of the class, of going through the permit class, of course, and one of the concerns I've had in the past is safety for our citizens. You know, I mean, there's one aspect is the safety of carrying a gun, which I am a supporter of the Second Amendment and believe in a permitted holder. But one of the things that you learn when you go through the permit class is where you can and can't carry, when you can and can't use deadly force, things to keep yourself safe as an individual and as a law-abiding citizen out there. And I have a concern that we're going to lose some of that, and that some of our citizens are going to make honest mistakes that are going to make them lawbreakers out there, and they're going to get themselves in trouble. And that they're going to think with this law that now they can carry it on schools, they can carry it, you know, in any business they want to carry it in, they can carry it in post office, you know, airports, et cetera, which the ballrooms, which this still will not allow them to do.
Yeah, that's correct. And, you know, we don't have those problems with open carry. And I don't think we'll have the problems with this permitless carry. You know, I guess my best answer is, you know, the rights, we live in a republic. In a republic, the rights and the responsibility belong to the individuals. And what we've seen with open carry, people are still getting lessons. They're still learning their safety procedures. They're not giving up training. It's just the mandatory government mandated training that they're against.
Well, they're a lot more conscious when they're carrying open, that people are looking at them than when they think they're going to slip it in their pocket, and nobody's going to see them. So it's a little different mindset, I believe, with that. Speaking of that, just everybody likes to call this the constitutional carry bill. I'm familiar with the Second Amendment. Again, I support it. Please tell me where in the Second Amendment it gives you a constitutional right to carry concealed without training.
I think the right to carry is to carry concealed or open. I mean, I don't know that it specifically spells it out where you can carry it, but it doesn't spell out where you can't carry it neither. So that's our position.
It really doesn't give you the right to carry at all. It really just gives you the right to possess and own. So carry has to be defined by the states, if you will.
Well, I think it does give you the right to carry. I think possessing and carrying is in our mind is the same thing, basically.
In your mind?
Yeah, that's correct.
Although some courts have ruled differently.
Right, okay.
So some federal courts have ruled that the Second Amendment does not give the right to carry concealed. It does give the right to own, but it does not give the constitutional right to conceal a weapon.
Well, I'm going to concede to what you're saying. I don't have any rebuttal to that. I'm not familiar with those cases.
Well, that's a federal court case that somebody said they had a constitutional right to carry concealed, and the court ruled through a thorough analysis of the Second Amendment that the historical analysis of it is that you have a right to own weapons, but it does not give you the right, the Constitution does not give you the right to carry a weapon in concealment. So, but, all right, I'm going to continue listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rep, I agree with Senator Smith. You keep saying constitutional carry in your opening remarks, but there's no provision in the Constitution that allows for concealed carrying. There's just not. It doesn't exist there. There's the other provisions. So that's confusing when you use those kind of terms. So anyway, let me ask you this: there under your bill, it would take away any kind of safety precautions that we may have in place now, where people have to at least know how to handle a gun?
Well, and as I mentioned, this follows open carry. So there are no classes required for open carry, and people that open carry are responsible with it. They get their own training. They don't have the government required class, but they're responsible.
Do you have any kind of studies or anything you can rely on that says that what you're saying is correct? Or is that just
and
what
actually,
you think?
I don't have them with us. Last year, John Lott, which is a statistician that deals with these matters, he had a lot of information that he brought to the House committee to confirm that. That's correct.
Let me tell you a story about something that happened a few months ago. I was in a gun store in Alexandria purchasing another handgun, and I was talking to the store owner, and I said, we have these bills that come up all the time. What do you, you're in this business, you sell firearms, what do you think about that? And she looked at me and she said, I had a kid come in here the other day, 19 years old, and he bought a 9mm handgun, and he was looking at it, and he paid me for it, and I said, well, is there anything I need to show you on this gun? Do you know how to use it or anything? He goes, just show me how to load it. Now, you don't see a problem with that, where we let
It's
people
my understanding
carry.
you-
Hang on a second.
I'm sorry.
You don't see a problem? It's okay. You don't see a problem where we're allowing teenagers to go buy a handgun. If they're over 18, your bill says 21 on the concealed carry, so they're let's say 21-year-olds. We're letting them conceal carry a weapon, and they may not even know how to load it.
Well, and she must have made a mistake, because you cannot buy a handgun till you're 21.
And you are correct. And that was my mistake. She didn't tell me. She just told me it was a kid.
Right.
The way she said it. So anyway, the fact of the matter, whether they were 19 or 21, is that we assume they bought it legally. You don't see a problem with that when the only question they have is how do you load it?
Well, and I will, we've actually passed a couple of bills here and through the House that allow retired people from different political positions and several other government positions that we don't require those same things from. And that's the people would like to be treated the same as the retired government officials, and
I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. Give me an example of that.
House Bill 8 was one, and SB 53 was another one.
Well, what do they do?
They allow certain retired individuals, retired judges, retired, I don't know all the different government employees that it allows special exceptions to, that
let
they
them
can
conceal
carry
weapons?
without a permit. There's no
Aren't they
training
required? There's no training requirement?
There's no training requirements on it.
So I thought they are required to do that.
It's not my understanding, no.
My appreciation of those bills was that it gave them the same rights that a legislator has, which requires training.
Yeah, yes, the legislators do require training, but it's my understanding this didn't. I may be mistaken,
So-
but in criminal justice, that was my understanding when the bills come through there.
So why should we require training of legislators that want to conceal carry a weapon, and for that matter, everybody else that we do now? But now we let no one. We don't have any requirements for anyone to have any training.
Well, that's right, we don't, and it is our belief that the individual has the right, unless they do something to lose that right, that they have that right to carry, to conceal carry.
You keep saying our. Who is our?
I would say the Second Amendment supporters that asked me to bring this bill.
Okay.
And Jude said, I think we had 1,400 emails in favor of it. There's, it's constitutional carry, permitless carry, if you'd rather call it that, is in 25 states, fixing to be in 26. Every state that touches Louisiana has this law in place, and it's very common.
Okay. How is this bill going to affect the police departments and the work that they have to do?
I don't see it affect them at all.
So I asked a police officer that same question, and I said, look, I'm not going to use your name or anything. I just want to know, honestly what you feel about it. And he said, I'm going to have to assume that every person I encounter has a weapon on them.
And I believe they do that all the time already.
I don't think that's correct. They don't assume that. In fact,
Right.
they approach people all the time without that assumption. But it makes sense that they would do it because if it's legal and you don't have to have anybody can just pick up a gun and put it in their waistband. I mean, if I'm a police officer, I'm going to assume that everybody is armed. I mean, those guys want to go home at night and see their families.
And it's my understanding they already do that, but they may not. But, I think the criminals are already going to be carrying these weapons, and they're going to want to ask them whether they have a weapon on them.
So when you said the criminals are already going to be carrying these weapons, your bill says that the person who has the right to possess a firearm can carry permitless. How are you going to know that until after the fact? Couldn't the criminal say, just carry it starting now without, even if they're not eligible? If the bill passes, couldn't they start carrying it until they were found out that they were a criminal?
Well, I don't think the criminals care if this bill passes or not. They're already carrying it without the bill. I don't think it has any effect.
Do you believe, or do you have any kind of statistical information that would show what the kind of the normal range of people would be that will carry weapons when you do this? Do you know of any studies that have been done on that?
There are some out there. I don't have that information with me.
So I asked some police officers that same question as well, and their belief is that they think 21 to 27-year-olds are going to be the ones that are going to start carrying a gun. And one of them told me he believed that typically people that would not otherwise carry a concealed weapon will be doing it now, whether they, if it's for their own protection or they just like to carry a gun or whatever it is. But that's troubling to me. Now,
and John Lott, which is the statistician that was here and testified last year, said when permitless carry goes into effect that you see a slight drop in permits, and then you start seeing an increase in permits because people get used to carrying, and they want to carry in other states. They go and get the permits. They actually see an increase because more people do decide to carry. So, to some extent, you're right.
Okay, sure. All right, thank you. That's all the questions I have right now.
Thank you.
Representative McCormick, I know this is a little bit off topic, but I know we've had that school shooting, and
Yes, sir.
I just see something come across my phone right now with another shooting, I think in Missouri or so. Tulsa? Okay. I would assume you're very interested in school safety, aren't you?
Sure.
Do you feel like maybe we need to have more safety in schools, maybe qualified people who are carrying guns in schools?
Yes, sir,
In
I do.
order to be- You know, if they have the ultimate training?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think that's a top priority right now, wouldn't you think?
Yes,
After
sir.
what we've seen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because I consider that too, and I know I voted, you know, for Representative or Senator Morris's bill last year with a bill similar to yours.
Yes, sir.
But you would agree with me right now, school safety should be on the frontmost of our
You bet.
thought.
You bet.
You
But
would support that, I would assume.
Oh, yeah, you bet. You know, in our schools in Caddo Parish, we have deputies that are in the schools armed.
Well, and look, deputies I think are great. The only problem is, it's kind of like when you carry a gun, open carry.
Yes,
If
sir.
I'm a criminal, who's the first person I'm going to take out? The person who has the gun that I know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
And another thing, if you don't mind me commenting, with permit carry, you can carry your weapon all the way up to the edge of the school zone. With open carry, or constitutional carry, as we're calling this, you cannot carry a weapon within 1,000 feet of a school. So that's some of the different restrictions that we were talking about a while ago. So,
You know, we may need something to address that, possibly if we could think of a way to increase school safety, correct?
right. Well,
Okay.
and it's actually a federal law. The 1,000 feet is a federal law for open
Unless
carry.
you have some state regulations that would allow you,
That's
because we
correct.
have officers carrying it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sir, but that's, I'm talking about if you're open carrying and you're not a police officer,
Okay.
as an individual, as a citizen. If you're open carrying or you're have permitless carry, you cannot carry within 1,000 feet of a school. That's the federal law right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Senator Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative McCormick, Vermont has had permitless carry since the 1700s, has it not?
That's correct.
And they have no appreciable difference in crime than us, maybe even better statistics than we do.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Arizona's had permitless carry for over 10 years, and their statistics have not changed in any meaningful way over the last 10 years, has it? Or 12 years since they've had permitless carry.
That's correct.
Are you aware of any spike in crime in any of the other 20-something states that have adopted permitless carry?
No, sir.
The Constitution, I will concede, does not say that you have the right to carry concealed weapons, but it does say the right to keep and bear arms. It doesn't exactly define how you can bear those arms, and where you can keep them, in your pocket or in your home. Does it not? That's a matter of interpretation that changes over time as the Supreme Court changes, does it not?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And
Just like Roe versus Wade.
everything can subject to change. That's the only thing that stays the same. Things change.
That's right.
I'll grant you that. And with respect to your bill in particular, does it keep in place the requirements for permitless carry, those things that those with the permit are supposed to comply with?
Yes, it doesn't change anything about permit carry.
Well, no, what I'm asking, though, is, for example, in my bill last year, I kind of made it specific that you had to be in compliance with those things, like you couldn't be intoxicated, you couldn't be interdicted, you couldn't be on drugs, you couldn't have been convicted of a crime of violence, a whole list of things. And I listed them out in my bill, but I don't know. My question to you is, does your bill still require that for a person to, they don't have to have the permit itself under your bill, but do they have to comply with those kind of things?
Most of them, yes. I would say that the duty to inform, I think you had in your bill, is not in
Right.
there. And the alcohol restriction that you had in your bill is not in there because besides that, yes. This just follows the same guidelines as open carry. And the bills earlier that I mentioned, like we were talking about, the legislators have those, I forget what the qualifications they have. It does not have the duty to inform or the alcohol limits on it. So it's the people wanted the same restrictions on themselves as elected officials had, basically, for
I understand
those issues.
I understand, and I don't know that either one is exactly the perfect way to go. And hindsight's always 20/20 on these things. But I don't have any amendments prepared. But assuming it gets to the floor, I would like to see that somebody shouldn't carry. Probably not even open carry if they're intoxicated. But we're not going to go there. That's kind of fully established law that everybody's aware of. But in any event, I'm fine with your bill. I would like to see a few improvements with it. At the appropriate time, I'll move favorable, but I doubt that is the appropriate time. But now is. But anyway, thank you for trying again.
Thank you.
And it is not the appropriate time. Senator Connick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. McCormick, Representative McCormick.
Thank you.
Who asked you to bring the bill? You mentioned someone asked you to bring the bill.
Honestly, when I was knocking on doors in my district, the number one asked question in my district was, would you bring a constitutional carry bill?
Were you influenced by anybody outside of the state?
No, sir.
Have you been in contact with any organizations
I've been
outside
in
of the state?
contact with people all over yes, every gun group you can imagine, local, state. I've been in contact with all of them.
All right. Have they have any influence in you, outsiders of Louisiana, pushing this bill?
No, sir. Like I said, it was brought, that was the number one asked question in my district when I was knocking on doors.
All right. You mentioned 1,400 emails
Yes, sir.
in support.
Yes, sir.
Where are they from?
They were all from Louisiana. That's all I know. I don't know specifically what areas they were from.
And none from out of state?
No, sir.
All right. Who has these emails?
The Jude C.
All right. And everybody
They
from...
were sent to the committee in Jude C.
Okay.
They were read. I think I know Senator Foyle announced that. I know that number because Senator Foyle announced that number. He said the exact number. It was over 1,400. I don't remember the exact number.
All right. Remember last year the governor vetoed it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You know the backlash that those who supported the governor's decision had?
I heard of some of yours just recently. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Do you support that, the way that was done?
No, sir.
All
No.
right. This is what I got last year from a outfit out of Colorado. Stabbed in the back, insert knife here, and they put me with Biden and President Biden and Kamala. This was sent out to my district. It's on Facebook, Instagram. I have a package back here I showed my colleagues from an outfit in Colorado, very inappropriate, just mean-spirited, and just scary. They threatened my family. They made comments to my family. And what do you have to say about that? If you don't agree with the bill, is it okay to attack people and curse them and ridicule them?
No, sir. I've received those same things, and my family receives those same things. I think we as elected officials, sometimes, this is a job we take, but our families are off limits.
Yeah.
That's,
But you know what? A lot of this, most of it, was from Virginia and from Colorado and around the state, not in my district.
yes, sir.
I don't represent Colorado. It's a different state, different environment. I don't represent Virginia. I don't represent Arizona. But I do represent the West Bank of Jefferson Parish and Plaquemines Parish. And because of all this attack that was being brought to me and others, I polled my district this year about concealed carry. You know what the numbers are?
We mentioned them earlier,
All
yes,
right.
sir.
And this is for these are not electronic ballots. These are paper ballots. I'll present that to the committee. You can do the numbers yourself. out of 1,073 responses, 1,000, and this is just in Senate District 8 in Louisiana, the question was, do you support a bill that allows any person to carry a concealed weapon without a permit and without first attending a certified weapons training course? Yes, 232 votes, which is 22%. No, 841 votes, 78%. The overwhelming majority of my district wants a person who is concealing a gun to have the knowledge how to use it. Is that a problem?
Oh, well, and, you know, and I would say I would want people to have that training too. It's just the government mandated training that we don't.
But these are the people I represent.
Yes, sir, I
That's
understand.
1,000 people. That's a lot of people to respond to a poll.
You bet.
And if I don't vote for your bill, I'm going to be attacked by these out-of-state people with hate. And how should I respond to that?
You know, I guess I don't have a response to that. I mean, those, you know, things out of my control. That wasn't my bill last year, and this is my bill this year. And
But that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with hate, and we're dealing with anger. And if you don't like what, you know, my way of doing things, I'm going to attack you instead of just understanding that the people in my district do not want this. NRA members do not want. My district is full of fishermen and hunters, deer hunters, pistol owners, own a pistol, own a rifle, but they want training. You know, that gives me, you know, we bring these bills year and year after, again, it causes this country to divide. The abortion issue, this issue, and are they being brought just to divide us or to bring us together without seeing any compromise?
I'm bringing this bill because my district asked me to bring it.
Okay. Now, your bill, does it allow, it has two provisions that it doesn't apply to. If a person is 21 years of age or older, and the person is not prohibited from possession of firearm under revised statute 1495.1. That's all the restrictions it has?
Yes, sir. It mimics open carry, which there are other restrictions.
What about the person who is mentally incompetent or mentally unstable? Is that person allowed to carry a weapon?
I would assume it'd be allowed to carry unless he's ruled incompetent by the courts. I would say yes. Permit carry, open carry, or this. I don't think it.
Do you see any danger in that?
Well, yes, sir. If he's not ruled incompetent by the courts, yes.
Do you see people can die and get killed because of this?
Sir?
You can see because if somebody's mentally unstable, they can harm another human being. Now, you have a right to life, right?
There's always that chance, yes, sir.
Okay.
You can't do it.
I got to say also that in my district, there's a lot of Republicans who want the protection of have a permit.
And I would say my
training.
district wants the training too. It's the government mandated that they're concerned about.
We are a government. Mr. Chairman, at the right time, I'd like to offer an amendment.
Okay. If you want to bring your amendment now for consideration.
You think it's okay?
That's fine.
Yes.
Do you have an amendment? If he yields,
I'll yield.
I'll put y'all both on. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rep, we're all elected officials that represent the voters, the citizens of this state. I think it's important that we listen to what the citizens of the state want us to do in our government. Do you share that belief?
Sure, that's why I'm right here carrying this bill.
Okay. There was a group, a company called ALG that does research, and there was a poll commission recently, a statewide poll in Louisiana. Are you familiar with that poll?
No, sir, I'm not.
So the poll asked the question, do you think there should be a requirement to obtain a permit and attend safety classes in order to carry a concealed handgun?
Thank you.
or do you think you should not be? Statewide, 80% of the people that were polled, citizens of the state of Louisiana, said that they believe people should have to have training to carry a weapon concealed. 16% said no, they shouldn't. Of Republicans, 73% said they should have to have training. 23% said they should not. Of independents, 84% said they should have training, and 12% said they should not. Of Democrats, 88% said they should have training, and 9% said they should not. That's just overwhelming evidence that the citizens of this state expect us to mandate training if you want to carry a concealed firearm. How can you justify your position when we're looking at these kind of numbers?
That's not the in my district. That's not the opinion. They should have.
Did you conduct a poll in your district?
And I've knocked on 5,000 doors when I ran for office, so it's a pretty good poll.
I can tell you this: I've knocked on a whole lot of doors in my career too, and I've never had the same question asked at every house. I've had.
Well, it wasn't the same question, but I think it all comes back. Do we want government mandate and train it, or do we trust people with their rights?
Should we not require anybody to have any kind of training to operate an automobile?
If it was in the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, saying we didn't, I would think so. Yes, but it's not.
This concealed carry is not in the Constitution. I thought we've established that already.
Well, that's. I think that's up for debate.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Senator Connick, back on your amendment. Would you care to explain your amendment, or would you like Lenore to?
Lenore, you can explain it, please.
So he passes it off to Cede, and you're on.
All right. So Representative McCormick's bill actually provides an exception to what's illegal carrying. So, and he's saying this is an exception to illegal carrying. And so Senator Connick's amendment creates an exception to the exception for situations where the person is under a judgment of judicial commitment, the person is under a judgment of full or limited interdiction, the person is subject to a pending order for protective custody, and then the person is subject to participation in an assisted outpatient treatment court, or the person has been hospitalized at any time within the last year for any mental health or substance abuse condition, pre-existing or otherwise.
Mr. Chairman, that basically it. I got this language from the Jefferson Parish Coroner's Office, who does commitments for for people who are seriously ill and should not in no way, shape, or form be handling weapons or have a weapon on them, concealed or otherwise. So this is the language that the coroner's folks suggested that we put in to put some safeguards that will allow those with mental illnesses not to be able to conceal weapons.
Okay. So Senator Connick has offered up Amendment 4314. Okay. I will add you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Connick, the amendment, I don't think I have an issue with it because it's basically anybody that's been committed or interdicted. But subsection D is the person is subject to participation in an assisted outpatient treatment court. So that means they're in court for a mental thing. That's not real clear to me what that means.
I think it's very broad for intentionally, because either for drugs or for mental illness, those type of things.
Assuming this gets to the floor, would you have a problem like just kind of making it,
we can tweak it,
relating it to drugs or mental illness or right, something like that, tighten it up, because I might have an issue with it.
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Senator Connick offers up Amendment 4314. Is there any objection to the adoption of this amendment? Hearing none, the Amendment 4314 is adopted. Any further? Senator Connick.
Now, at the right time, I would like to put this poll and this data into the record.
Absolutely.
So,
We got a lot of red cards here seem to need to go into the record card, too.
you need a big folder.
A question from Senator Pope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to maybe go in a little different direction, but also follow up a little bit on what Senator Lambert had referred to yesterday. And if y'all will indulge me, if you look on page 2 of your bill, we'll start somewhere around the line 17, where we have requested the Department of Public Safety and Correction Offices of State Police provide a 2-hour handgun education course at no cost. Then we go to C, and the purpose of this, it tells me the purpose of it is to educate the public on firearm safety and use. But then you tell me that this course is optional and shall not be a requirement. So I'm a little confused why we would even put it in the bill if it's not required.
That was actually an amendment put on by another state rep on the floor of the House.
But it's still in this piece of legislation, correct?
Sir?
It is still in this legislation, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
And you are carrying this legislation, is that
I
correct?
sure am, yes, sir.
Okay. So I assume that that's what we have to go by,
That's correct.
right? So we're going to put it in here. We're going to say that they got to provide a course at their cost, provide the training, yet we're not going to require the training to be done by anybody that wants to carry this, right?
That's correct.
And then it goes on to list in D there all the things that the course should cover. But here again, if we're going, if we're not going to mandate it, why create it?
What's the question?
Why are we going to mandate something that we don't require that is followed through with?
Well, I don't think they're mandating the training. They're just mandating the state police do it. Put it online.
So we are mandating the state police do something. That's my question.
That's correct. That's what the amendment did to the bill.
I just don't see the purpose of having this in here. I mean, quite frankly, I like pretty much where Senator Lambert was going a while ago about, having some things in this. I mean, I'm not opposed to what we're trying to do here as such, but I think that there needs to be a little bit more clarity for where I want to go with it at this point in time. So that's all I need right now.
Okay. The board is clear. Would you clear the table so we can hear from some of the opposition?
You bet.
What, you want to?
I'm going to go ahead and offer my amendment at this point till we
Okay.
in front of everyone.
Senator Lambert?
I have an amendment. If it could be passed out, it's 4251. And I'll give Ms. Hebe a chance to pass it out. But basically what this does, I talked about a little bit about school safety. And as y'all know, this is the last bite at the apple. We have a situation here where we can't file other bills. So we have to look for instruments that can maybe address a situation that happened in Uvalde or may happen in other places. So what this amendment basically does, it deletes on page 1 lines 11 through 18 and on page 2 lines 1 through 13. And it puts in a provision to create school protection officers pursuant to RS 17416.61. And these officers can be, it's something that is going to be voluntary. Any school district within the state may designate one or more elementary or secondary school teachers or administrators as school protection officers. And these responsibilities and duties are, the protection officer are voluntary and shall be in addition to their normal responsibilities. And the schools may designate one or more school teachers or administrators as a school protection officer. They don't have to do it. It allows them to do it. And that person, it would be authorized to carry a concealed weapon on the school grounds in the district. And the purpose of this is maybe to prevent something like we had in Uvalde or some of these other schools. Because what we would do, that teacher or school administrator is going to have to be post-certified, which means they will have to be instructed on situations like what could happen over there, how to handle things, and would provide more security than we have in our schools right now. It's going to be governed by basically the state police, and they have to be post-certified in order to do it. And anyone who is designated as an administrator or officer shall within 30 days notify in writing the superintendent of state police that they are that person, and they'd have to give them their name, birth, etc., name of school district, date the person was designated as a school protection officer, and so forth. And Ms. Heavey, you may go over a little bit more, but I tried to hit the high spots of it if I think I've explained the amendment.
Ms. Heavey, you're on.
Absolutely. So in addition, one of the things, if the designated, what do we call them, school protection officers are not allowed to essentially, that firearm cannot leave their custody or control at any time while they're in the school grounds. And if that does happen, then they could be subject to discipline or termination. Also, there's a provision that allows the school district to revoke the designation to revoke the designation as a school protection officer, and they would have to notify then the superintendent of state police that that designation has been revoked. Additionally, it can also apply to school districts can designate retired school teachers or administrators as a school protection officer in addition to the active employees. And other than that, I think you hit all the high spots.
And I think this is the last chance to try to really do something, since we can't file additional bills. And I think with the safety involved and the situation we have, that this is something, I don't think it's an opportunity that we can pass up. So with that, I'll offer the amendment.
Okay. Senator Morris on the bill or the amendment? Senator Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Lambert, this bill, this amendment eliminates basically the permitless carry portion of the bill.
It pretty much, yes, it does.
Let me add you.
I guess we can both be on at the same time.
Yeah.
The question is, do we pass something that can prevent something, because this is our last time to do it? What's more important? School safety. If you look at Uvalde, they had 40 minutes before the police actually entered. In this situation, even if we have the police enter a situation like this, telling how much time has elapsed, where this has a situation where you have a post-certified individual that is on the school that can respond immediately. And there's a potential that you have more than one person. So it's kind of a situation where it's safety. Look, I voted for your bill last year, voted to override the governor's veto, but now we're in a situation where we have children at safety issues. And how do we address that this legislative session? And I think that's the decision we have to make. Whose rights are we going to put first?
Right, but my question is, can we do both? Why can't we have permitless carry in this bill and provide these school protection officers? I don't know enough about this, whether this would be a good protocol to have in schools or not. But assuming it was, couldn't we have? We don't have to cut out the whole portion about the average, law-abiding citizen.
Senator Morris, you're right. But you know what? We're going to talk about realities in politics right now. We have a situation where we had in Uvalde. You may have that other situation in other school shootings. Mr. McCormick or you can bring a permitless carry bill next year. I don't know if you remove these provisions that you can address this issue. So it's a question of, do we vote for this amendment and maybe have school safety? Representative McCormick can always bring the bill next year, you can bring it. This is the last bite at the apple, and will it pass? Can we pass something to address something with school safety? So that's the issue. And I mean, each person has to make their own decision as to how they're going to vote on this.
Right. Well, I respect what you're trying to do here, because those situations that have occurred recently are absolutely horrendous. But the people who carry out, I think we need to clarify what we're talking about here. A person that is evil or insane enough to go out and murder children, or anyone for that matter, is not going to worry about whether there's a permitless carry or not, law or not, or whether they need a permit. And I think, I don't think this bill is not going to increase, in my opinion, the chance that somebody that evil or that insane will do that again. It's going to take other things, other types of legislation to try to address that. But this bill is for people who will not carry because they don't have the time, resources, or inclination to go through the government red tape to get one. But I understand what you're coming with, and I feel like both are admirable goals, but I don't know that we need to do one to the exclusion of the other. But I'll just leave that alone, if you like.
And let me respond to that. The situation is how to eliminate the threat in the school as fast as possible. I think the bill I have has a better potential than anything else. And whether this gets on, the question is, last year the bill got vetoed. There's no guarantee the bill will make it this year. I think this puts on, I mean, it's
I understand. By eliminating the permitless carry portion of the bill,
I think
it
makes
has a better chance of becoming law. I got you. Okay. Well, thank you,
and it's
Mr.
a better
Chairman.
addressing an issue that is in everybody's mind.
You make a good point, but I still have an issue with changing the entire character of the bill. But,
All right.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Senator Lambert offers up Amendment 4251. Is there an objection? Object. Okay. Senator Morris objects. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Bowie? Yes. Yes. Senator Connick? Yes. Yes. Senator Lambert?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Luno? Yes. Yes. Senator McMath?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Morris?
No.
No. Senator Pope?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Smith? Yes. Senator Ward? Yes. Senator Reese?
No.
No.
8
yeas, 2 nays.
8 yeas and 2 nays, and the amendment is adopted. Back on the bill. So we're going to call up, the board is clear. We're going to call up the opposition. Tom Costanza with the Louisiana Conference on Catholic Bishops. President would like to speak. Angela Bradford with Moms Demand Action. President would like to speak. And is it Caitlin Joshua?
Yes.
President would like to speak. Coalition for Equality and Justice.
I'll go first.
Ladies first.
Yeah, sure. Michelle Bradford, volunteer and chapter leader for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, Louisiana chapter, of course. We, of course, come tonight in light and love and resiliency from every corner of the state, including Caddo Parish. And we, of course, have testimonies in the vein of the original bill, so I'm going to try and expand as much as I can. But ultimately, we're not willing to pay this fiscal note for the original bill because it doesn't account for the loss of life that is possible and has been seen in other states across the country. I know folks who spoke earlier said that there was no change in gun violence related deaths or homicides and assaults in other states, but we have seen overall an average of 22% increase in the states that have passed permitless carry over the last decade. And beyond that, I did want to lift up that we pay $8.4 billion a year for gun violence in the state of Louisiana, which is immeasurable, and the long-term impacts continue on survivors, families, and communities. In addition to that, since we're talking about money in Revenue and Fiscal Affairs, the National Commission on COVID-19 as well as the U.S. Treasury recommended that we use any excess money or COVID funds actually for a variety of programs to deal with violence intervention. One of those things, of course, was not permitless carry. And so overall, our healthcare systems, our criminal justice system, our social services cannot afford the money that we will end up spending on the increase in gun violence, which is not included in the fiscal note. And I can, of course, email or send a record for the data that supports those numbers. And I will say that a lot of the organizations that do that work around permitless carry research and what its impact has been on other states, they're very honest about it. And so on one of their websites, they did show like 7 reports show a decrease, 13 show no change, but 46 reports show an increase. And so the majority shows a clear increase in places like Alaska, Arizona, Texas, et cetera. The only other thing is we, as Moms Demand Action, have never supported arming teachers, and so this amendment doesn't work for us either. This entire bill in this moment is not the response to the gun violence that we've seen over the past 2 years. And we are happy to work with y'all for next year for other ideas, but leave some of the resource officers and ideas like that for superintendents at the local and parish level for school systems. And also, we all saw in Texas, which already has permitless carry, that they have resource officers in their schools, and that didn't work out for them. And then 19 officers couldn't figure out what to do. And so that's not the answer to arm more people. Thank you.
In the interest of time, I'm going to ask everybody to keep your original comments to 3 minutes. The hour's getting late and everybody's getting tired, so next.
Okay. Caitlin Bradford Joshua with the Power Coalition for Equity and Justice. Also serve as the liaison for Faith in Action, which is a faith-based organization that's committed to ending gun violence in America. Bottom line, HB 37 is dangerous, and in our opinion, it in fact encourages irresponsible behavior as it relates to owning a weapon. Permitless carry legislation would allow people to carry concealed handguns in public places without a permit, background check, or safety training, dismantling Louisiana's system of responsible gun ownership. Louisiana's handgun permitting system requires training on how to carry firearms responsibly in public, and we want to keep that facet of responsibility. Permitless carry would strip away the critical safety component, as discussed in the argument earlier. It's just not something that we want to be leaning towards in the wake of a shooting like Uvalde and encouraging irresponsible gun ownership. Right now in this moment, we just feel like we should be pushing measures and legislation that encourages folks to be responsible gun owners, to take the trainings. Last year, and I think I've heard a few times in the permitless carrying hearings this year, the argument has leaned towards this access piece around folks having the barrier around paying X amount of dollars for training. We think that's a good thing, and folks do utilize that training to make sure that they are being responsible gun owners, so we don't want to encourage anything that might do away with that. In this moment, we do want to enact stricter policies and measures that it relates to the Second Amendment, and for us, HB 37 does not do that. So right now, we're at a major fork in the road, and we have to decide whether or not human life is more important than guns, and so we're asking for you all to vote no on HB 37.
Thank you. Tom?
Thank you, Chairman Allen and committee members. My name is Tom Costanza with Executive Director of the Louisiana Conference of Catholic Bishops. Thank you, Representative McCormick, for bringing this bill so we can discuss an important human life issue. And can we ask ourselves a fundamental question? How can Louisiana confront this growing culture of violence with a culture of life and build a civilization of love? HB 37 is particularly important to oppose because this bill does not promote a culture of life. It is the position of the LCCB to oppose the permitless carry proposal, as it would remove important and reasonable training safeguards to protect human life in our community. The LCCB realizes that we have been consistently against to support reasonable gun safety bills, but we know that such policy is only part of a larger solution to address violence in our society. While I was a division director at Catholic Charities, who operated a Cornerstone Kids program for children whose parents were incarcerated, many of these kids witnessed violence, gun violence, and we saw the impact of trauma this has on the family system. In addition to these perspectives, we use two fundamental principles of our Catholic social teaching to arrive at our position. First, the principle of subsidiarity, and then rights and responsibilities. The principle of subsidiarity would ask who and what persons are closest to the problem are saying what. In this case, it would entail listening to municipalities. It would entail listening to law enforcement, as they are closest to the interaction with the public, and they have a fundamental right to have what to say on this issue. In terms of rights and responsibility, one has a right to carry, of course, but one also has a responsibility to be trained and take all the necessary steps to obtain a permit. The current system of training promotes a culture of responsibility and a level of comprehensive training commensurate with one's right to conceal. This is reasonable, a requirement in the interest of public safety and the common good. So we're just committed to continue to confront this culture of violence with a culture of life and a vision of hope and a call to action. HB 37 fails to reflect this commitment to life and instead risks the potential of making it easier for persons to act and endanger our communities and workplaces, a risk we cannot take, we cannot afford at this time. Respect for human life will be further eroded. We urge you to continue to promote a culture of life and do not support HB 37. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you keeping within the time limit. The board is clear. We have no questions for you. Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Let's see. Ashley Hayer, representing herself, and Stephanie Atkinson, representing herself. Ladies, welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
Who would like to go first?
We go first. Okay. I'm here to speak as a concerned citizen who is tired of the increasing senseless gun violence in this country. This country does not need to continue to make gun laws that are less safe. We should move towards safer gun laws such as background checks on all gun sales, safe storage initiatives, red flag laws, and yes, training for anyone who carries a concealed weapon. As a citizen, I would like to know when I enter a grocery, a church, or a theater that those who are allowed to carry a concealed weapon have been properly vetted and trained. If not, I would like to see the gun in plain view, and so that I can make a decision whether I should stay or leave. There are people today that think that anti-gun violence is anti-gun. It is not. It is anti-gun violence. There are those that state that violence is not a gun issue but a mental health issue. Yes, anyone who would walk into a grocery store and kill 10 people just because of the color of their skin, or who goes into a school and kills 19 children and 2 teachers is mentally ill. However, mental illness is a worldwide problem. Gun violence, as we have come to witness in this country, is a uniquely American problem. We need safer laws. The Second Amendment gives citizens the right to bear arms. How can we do it safely? Our forefathers never intended for those weapons to be used on people and children in our communities. There are other rights in the Constitution to consider. One is the freedom of movement. This gives me the right to drive to Texas and beyond. But should I do it at 200 miles an hour? The 14th Amendment also covers various rights, and one part states, nor should any state deprive any person of life, liberty. Those words, life, liberty. Our people and our children should be able to live with the freedom to go to the grocery, the mall, and their schools. In response to the recent mass shootings at the school in Texas, Senator Ted Cruz suggested we should have less doors in our schools. Just what we need, less doors, so if there's a fire or an active shooter, there will be nowhere for them to exit except a one door. We need our leaders to do better than that. I am asking you today to do that by voting no to HB 37. Thank you.
Okay, before, you didn't state your name for the record, would you?
Stephanie Atkinson.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
Ashley?
My name is Ashley Heyer. Senators, I'm here today as a mother and a history teacher and a supporter of shooting sports. Some of my happiest memories come from the time I spent working towards my NRA rifle expert, and one of my proudest moments of a mother was seeing my own daughter win her rifle expert in 2016. This training was invaluable to us, yet even at this really hard-earned skill level, I'm not sure how many experts are in here among y'all gun owners, but we were not able to get a hunting license without taking and paying for the hunter safety course that is designed to, quote from the law, from the LWDF website, prevent hunting incidents by teaching firearms and hunting safety practices. For the privilege of hunting, for the makings of a great gumbo, I must take hours to complete a government-mandated course, take a test, pay a fee, and in the name of safety, as you put it, Senator Morris, I must go through a lot of red tape. Okay? And this is to hunt. Okay. So, under proposed House Bill 37, the Common Sense Carry Bill, most anyone over 18 will be allowed to purchase, actually 21, but let's face it, 18-year-olds drink, they're going to buy the gun, or think that they can. They will be allowed to purchase and immediately carry a concealed semi-automatic pistol they do not know how to use from the moment they purchase this. How does it make sense to allow someone to bring a high-powered weapon into a crowd from the moment they purchase it with no safety training, no license, and no real background check? Incidents will happen, accidental and on purpose. In fact, 2 years ago, right after his 18th birthday, one of my former students purchased a semi-automatic weapon he had no idea how to use. He thought it was cool from video games. And I would argue that he wasn't part of a well-regulated militia, so he probably had no reason to own it. He showed it to a friend, and he murdered him. He killed him by accident. It was right after his graduation. As a teacher, like all of my colleagues, I'm particularly worried about guns in schools. If you normalize permitless carry, more people will carry concealed guns because it's normalized. Frankly, just like if you legalize pot, a lot more people would do it because it's normalized. Okay? If you normalize this, more people will carry the guns. The guns will enter schools in record numbers, intentionally or just because someone forgets that they have it on them. I'm really worried about people coming to school with guns, not like the situation in Texas, but parents who come in with custody situations, there's a restraining order of them against their child. They come in, they're looking for their kids. It's a big thing that our school safety officers encounter, and things get heated. With this, I could easily see them having a deadly altercation because it's more likely that that gun is in the school because you've normalized the practice. We know that having 18 trained police officers in tactical gears with guns standing in the hallway, I checked the timeline for over 40 minutes, can't stop one evil person with a gun. And Senator Lambert, I really appreciate your efforts. I got to be honest, if this happens, can I really believe that the proposed school protection officers will give their lives in the case of a shooting? They have no tactical gear. They're running around with their IDs and their T-shirts and their coach's gear, and like they're going to stop for that? And do we want, honestly, shootouts in the schools between parents and students or teachers? Do we want the situation like what happened at Morris Jeff graduation this year to be normalized? Y'all, we're not in Deadwood, okay? And I believe that this permitless carry bill could create just that. So I ask that you vote against this, and please think about the teachers, think about the kids, and think about what normalizing this practice brings to our jobs.
Okay. Thank you. The board is clear. Appreciate your testimony. We also have 22 red cards. In the interest of time, we will put them in the record. We also have emails that were sent to us, 26 in support and 38 in opposition. I will mention one name I recognize here is Ben Harang, who's an avid supporter of this legislation. So we have a quagmire. We have two adopted amendments that conflict. So we really need to pick one. Senator Connick, I see that you,
Yeah, based on, Mr. Chairman, thank you, based on the fact that Mr. Representative Lambert's amendment got on, it makes
Senator
my,
Lambert.
Senator Lambert's amendment got on, it makes my amendment unnecessary, moot. So I would withdraw my amendment.
so I will entertain that as a motion to reconsider the vote in which we adopted Senate Committee Amendment 4314. Sorry. Is there any objection to that motion? Hearing none, we will reconsider the vote by which that was adopted. Now, would you like to withdraw your motion?
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, he withdraws his motion. So the only amendment that we have on there right now is going to be 4351. Representative McCormick, would you like to close? 4251, I'm sorry. Yeah, that is the amendment that we have on the bill. So
I'll waive.
you'll waive,
Closing, yes, sir.
okay? Senator Connick?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to put all this into the record. These are the surveys from my district that shows 80% of my district does not, they do want training for concealed carry. The postcard I got from the Colorado group and the survey results, so,
Okay.
thank you.
That being said, what's the pleasure, Senator Lambert? Would you like?
Move favorably.
Move as amended?
Yes, as amended.
Okay. So Senator Lambert makes a motion to report House Bill 37 as amended. So Senator Lambert makes a motion to report House Bill 37 as amended. Is there any opposition to that motion? Hearing none, House Bill 37 is reported as amended. On a motion by Senator Reese that we adjourn, we are adjourned.